Hello everybody, my name is Jeremy and welcome back once again to the Kanto region. Here on the outskirts of Viridian City, this episode is pretty special. This represents the last real expansion of Viridian City. We're just about done here. We're wrapping things up. In this episode, we are going to kind of work on the outlying areas and connect it all to Pallet Town via some farmland. And then in the next episode, we're going to be wrapping up the detailing of the city, closing out a couple of things that I mean to close out, and then that's it. So we're really moving along here. And the first thing in this episode is a pretty fun project. This is a gigantic Buddha statue and a sort of a large temple complex and park, I guess we would consider it, kind of around it. And this is based on a real thing in Aomori City that is kind of on the outlying area. I guess maybe it's not in the city proper. I think that I think there's like a bunch of like nearby cities. I'm not really sure exactly how like the governmental structure of it all works and where certain territories begin and end. But in any event, this is a real thing. And I'm copying it pretty closely. I'm making it a lot less elaborate just based on the amount of space that I have to work with. I just didn't really have it in me to do as much stuff here as there actually is in real life. But I really like the way that this comes out, and I like it as sort of an end cap for the city. It kind of helps to justify a little bit why the city ends where it does. Although, I mean, I do a fair bit of that already with the forests and the mountains and stuff. I try to do a lot of like geographical reasoning in these sort of situations, but in this case, I like also the idea of there being this sort of this sort of sacred site that you're not allowed to really develop past. And in the next episode, I guess we're actually kind of doing a very similar thing, but you'll see that when we get to it. In any event, we built the big Buddha and we put a sort of a big podium around it. And then there's this kind of like loop road that leads up to it. I figure, this area would be probably popular for hiking. I bet a lot of people would just kind of park down at the bottom of this big hill and, walk up. But I figured for accessibility reasons, there's probably a lot of older folks who would like to come and see the big Buddha. So, and in real life, it's really like this. There is a lot of parking up there. There's ways to just kind of like drive straight up. So I figured I would provide that option as well. Here, I'm using these coastal paths. I think they're made by Mac Welshman. Really nice, really detailed dirt paths for this sort of a project. And they're a little finicky at the nodes. I'm not really sure why they seem to... they seem to just kind of like want to disconnect from each other. They want to clip. You can see right now a little bit, just the tiniest little sliver of clipping there down to the subterranean blue world. Over here, I decided to kind of do a little like a decorative pond. This isn't like a naturally occurring thing here. I just figured probably as sort of a decorative feature, as like a nice thing to kind of chill and sit next to after you've seen the big Buddha and you've had your time with it. Maybe you'd come over here and have a little bit of lunch sitting by this cute little waterfall. And really simple detailing here. These I think they're called detailing rocks by Gray Flame. Really nice. They kind of randomize the size of themselves and you just kind of like stick them around a little piece of water, and it nicely sets it into the environment, And now just another outlying temple building. Not sure what this one would be. Maybe it's like a little administrative office or something like that. I think the building right in front of the Buddha, I looked at it in real life in Aomori, and it looks like it's some sort of like a gift shop or something like that, which, I don't know, to my Western sensibilities seems like an odd thing to have at a holy site, but I'm not a particularly religious person, so I'm not gonna stand in judgment or anything, but just kind of an interesting little thing there. Now down here at the bottom of the hill, there's a kind of like a larger temple and this pagoda, and there is really a pagoda at the real one in Aomori, and I I just decided to put one there. I don't know traditionally where pagodas are supposed to be or what they're supposed to represent or anything like that. But I think they look cool, and I feel like I need to have some somewhere. I'm having a lot of trouble actually with like the more traditional elements of Japan. I don't always know exactly how I'm meant to be using stuff like that. I've discussed this in the past about kind of my feelings around Shinto shrines and how they are supposed to be laid out and what elements are meant to be there and what aren't. And I definitely am still struggling with that very thing. I build a Shinto shrine in the next episode as well. And similarly, I just kind of am winging it most of the time. So if you know stuff about this, really feel free to leave some comments. Feel free to hit me up in Discord. I'd really love some further guidance on this. Speaking of things I need further guidance on, over here next to the temple, I decided to put a little Zen Garden. This is a very old asset pack by Ronix. It's been around on the workshop for a really long time. And it's unfortunate. It's a really cool asset, but it's very hard to see from pretty much any distance beyond this. And due to kind of the limitations of film capture technology, the detail of the stripes of the Zen Garden really just kind of end up looking pretty bad on film. So I'm not super thrilled with the way that this garden turned out. I think I don't think I'll be doing any more of them anytime soon. We'll see. Maybe I'll figure out some sort of a way to use like procedural objects or something to make it work a little bit better. We'll see. Now just some final detailing around this temple building, putting a little bit of a different texture on the ground in front of it just to kind of like break up this concrete gray a little bit. A couple of planters, some dirt to kind of blend that line a little bit better. And that's about it for up there. Down here at the street level, we're putting a bigger parking lot. I feel like this is kind of like I said in the beginning, this would be probably the main place that people are parking and then walking up. Using the same temple building that I used in Pallet Town, there just kind of aren't a ton of temple assets, not a variety enough at least, such that you can have a different one in every city on a map like this, unfortunately. But I think it fits well enough. I altered the one in Pallet Town enough that they look pretty different, and they're far enough away from each other, I guess. And back here, just doing the same old forestry trick that I'm always doing, using these big green decals to kind of cover the ground underneath these to make it look a little bit fuller and richer than it really is. Using the big clusters of pine trees and then coming in with a couple of more detailed ones here and there to kind of hide the seam on the decal a little bit, and then sticking a couple of them here and there within the forest just to break up the shape a little bit and give it a little bit more visual appeal. And now I'm just going around doing some landscaping around the area. I want to keep it looking really natural. I figure this is probably a place that's it's a place where people come to kind of commune with nature and just kind of be around the trees and be around all of this very holy architecture. It all kind of feels like it should be a pretty wild and natural area. So using a lot of the wild hedges, a lot of the weeds and things like that. Up here, I realized that if a car drove off the edge of this road, it would be probably a pretty devastating fall down to the bottom of the hill. Quite dangerous, so I put up a little bit of a fence there. And over here by the pagoda, I figured maybe this area could be a little bit more purposefully landscaped as far as the keepers of this site are concerned. The rest of this is more like a nature preserve, and then this pagoda has some flowering trees around it just for aesthetic sake. That's about it for this temple complex. Just closing it out with a bit more of this wild landscaping and stuff. I really like the way this turned out. It's like I said in the beginning, it's not as intricate, it's not as full of stuff as the real one is, but I still feel like in the end it looks nice, and in the background of shots of the area I think it looks really, really nice. And I think it adds a nice element to the area. So now over here, back by the river confluence, which I've learned is the correct term. I was using delta completely wrong. Apologies for that, river fans. Over here, just on the other side of the confluence, I'm going to try to mix up this area a bit. You know, it's the density is starting to taper off, but you don't really see it as you would typically in an American city, the way that density drops off in Japan. You know, you'll still see like clusters of pretty dense housing just kind of stuck throughout farmland. So I'm trying to reflect that here by kind of having this one, there's one road coming out of the city right next to the bridge, still be quite, densely packed with housing. And then I'm going to put a couple of rice farms on kind of on either side of it, just flanking it. And I think that comes out looking pretty neat and kind of sells the idea pretty nicely. And if you look over to the left, you'll see kind of where we are working towards in terms of meeting up with Pallet Town. The distance is really, really not that huge. And I'm hoping that I'm right about the way that it looks, essentially. Like, I feel like when I look at it from afar, you can kind of see the distance as being bigger than it is. But there's certain things that you can look at that really tip you off as to just how close these two cities are. Namely, the power lines. I'm going to add some power lines connecting the two in a little bit. And you'll see when we get to that just how close they actually are. It's not as big as it would potentially seem. I wonder if maybe I should move the power lines closer together or something like that to kind of make it look a little bit further, because in the end it's maybe like 5 or 6 of those big towers and you're already here in Viridian City. Although, granted, on the outskirts of Viridian City. To get to downtown is quite a bit further. And in that regard, I guess maybe it is far enough. I don't know. You let me know. There's going to be some wider cinematics in this episode, and especially in the next episode. You'll get a good look at it, and let me know what you think, I guess. This is just some same old stuff that I'm usually doing with these rice fields. I don't really like working with the ditches and canals that come with the pack. I know that's realistic. I know that's how they actually work in real life, but it's just a lot of networks to work with, and I find the nodes on those to be quite finicky and just not really my favorite to work with. So I tend to just kind of stick this grass in between there to kind of maybe suggest that there is like a tiny canal or ditch in between those, kind of hidden beneath those weeds. I don't know, something like that. I feel like is a pretty fair assumption to make on the viewer's behalf. And now just closing in this farm property with a hedge and some trees and stuff. And already we've covered a great deal of this space. And that's kind of the magic of farms when you get out to the outskirts of your city. You can really kind of you really close out an area pretty quick by throwing a couple of farms around. And there you saw me doing just my normal detailing around this river, trying to keep it really super lush and green. There's a lot of weeds. There's a lot of these little mangrove trees everywhere. I really like to just kind of keep the edges of them pretty green and pretty dense. I feel like that's something that you pretty typically see around Japan. Here, this is I built this substation in a previous episode out in Pallet Town, and to be perfectly honest with you, I didn't enjoy building it, and I don't really care about substations. It's not really one of my particular special interests, so I just decided to copy and paste it from over there just to keep my life a little bit simpler as I go through this process. Sorry in advance if you are a big electric head, if you're a big fan of substations and stuff like that. It's just not really of interest to me, and I don't really know what I'm doing with those. I expressed that in the episode where I built it. I really don't know how those things work, so I just kind of kept it simple for this one. Now over here, we're next to the temple complex. I put a couple of shops and a little parking area here. I figured they're nearby to the temple. They'd want to keep the architecture pretty traditional, just for the sake of kind of roping in tourists. It kind of seems like it makes some sense. You'd want to kind of ally yourself with the temple as best you can in people's minds. Now over here, speaking of filling big spaces, we have this big agricultural warehouse. That's what the asset is called. Just looks like a regular warehouse to me, but I guess the Japanese writing on the front of it expresses that it's some sort of an agricultural company. So I put it out here around all these farms and stuff. Maybe they're storing rice for shipment. I don't know, something like that. And just doing some normal stuff here with beating up these parking areas with a bunch of decals, kind of keeping it pretty grimy and chaotic. And I'm going to go around in a minute and just kind of throw a bunch of cars around here. This is something that I just needed to do in this case because you can't really see it from this angle exactly, but the ground over there is extremely wavy and unlevel. And it was the only way that I was going to be able to keep these cars kind of on ground level and hide just how wavy it is. Now over here, this is the only Christian church, the only Catholic. I guess Catholic? I think it's a Catholic church. I guess I'm not really totally sure about this. I just finished watching the FX original series Shogun, and it would seem from what goes on in that show that most Japanese people who are subscribed to some kind of Christian theology are Catholics. I don't know if that is truly the case or if that's still the case, if anything has changed with that. Are there Japanese Protestants? I don't really know. Let me know if you know. I am actually very curious about that. But in any event, this is the only Christian denomination church in the Kanto region so far, and most likely the only one that we'll ever get, because the only other Japanese church on the workshop is an extremely noticeable, way too unique-looking one from Tokyo that I just can't really justify putting it anywhere. It's just too well-known of a building, I guess, is what I mean to say. It also doesn't look particularly Japanese, so that doesn't really help me either. Over here, this is just a little school that we're kind of sticking over at the edge of the map here. I figured, just having one elementary school and one high school for this region probably didn't make sense. This city is pretty large. I don't think, even though gameplay-wise, I think it's actually perfectly suitable for the population size, I figured for aesthetic reasons, we probably needed another one. So this is a smaller one out here in the outskirts. I guess it's probably an elementary school, actually, because there is a little playground there. I think in-game it might be a high school, but we're just going to call it an elementary school. And they have their own pool, which is pretty nice. I wish my elementary school had a pool. That would have been pretty nice. And just doing some simple detailing on this one, kind of walling it in just to fill out the block a little bit and give it more of a typical Japanese sort of a feeling. Help it blend in with the houses and stuff a little bit more, and I guess keep the kids inside a little bit better. I put down these really tall trees and then realized almost immediately after that there are solar panels on the side of this building, so it wouldn't have made any sense at all to keep tall trees there. And now we're in the last bit of the episode, just doing some farmland to connect Viridian City out to Pallet Town. And I'm pretty happy with this project and how things are going so far. I'm about to record the commentary for the next episode as well, and then I think in real time my daughter is going to be born any day now. So I'm pretty happy with the amount of work I was able to get done before she arrived. I really pushed myself on this last sprint, and I'm happy that I got it all done. And these farms are looking pretty good, I think. Some of them a little bit better than others. This vegetable patch is well, the coloring kind of changes between the little bits of the patch, and I'm not super crazy about the way that looks, but, we'll live with it. And this is kind of something that I'm toying with a bit in these little connective areas where I'm kind of purposefully making all of these rice fields and stuff into kind of like strange shapes to, well, when you look at it from afar, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. But basically by kind of like pinching it in sections and then letting it kind of get a little thicker in sections, I feel like from afar it kind of, it creates more of a sense of space. It makes it look like it's taking up more space than it really is. And in any event, folks, that's going to about do it for the episode. I want to thank you so much for watching my show, for spending your Friday with me, or whatever day it is that you're watching this. You can find me on Twitter at @JeremyThunder. You can check out my podcast, Generation Loss, wherever you find your podcasts. You can become a channel member for $5 a month and get early access to episodes. You can buy me a coffee at my Buy Me a Coffee link, support me with a one-time donation. You can check out the asset collection in the description of the episode. And I think that's all the things that I usually plug. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.